Yeah. Well, I brought a coffee that spilled everywhere in my car right now. So.
Oh man, set this down.
Okay.
This is just B-roll. I can just send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can use it.
Okay, I guess I can tell you about my scenario, my refinance scenario.
Yeah.
that I
Go
had.
for it.
So I had a situation one time where a guy, when rates went down quite a bit, and he wanted to refinance because he wanted a lower house payment. And so we did the initial review and kind of started looking at things. I pulled his credit report, noticed that he had, a couple of student loans, a couple of credit cards. He had a car payment. I think he even had a solar. I think he had a solar financed
Loan.
on it. And so once I kind of started looking at it, he had a pretty high 30-year fixed rate too. And so I was just kind of going, well, let's add up all these payments and see what everything adds up to. And then it just dawned on me. I said, he had 2 kids. When he put on his application, he had 2 kids, and they were 12 and 14. And so my first reaction was to ask him well, do you have college funding for your kids already figured out? Because they're 5 years away. They're 5, 6, 7 years away. He said, no. He said, no, I don't. I said, are you going to want them to go to college? Absolutely. And his take was, well, I got student loans, and you'll just have to take student loans. And so I kind of just looked at the whole scenario. He had a ton of equity in his home. I mean, a ton. He was the type of guy that whatever his payment was, he was like paying extra.
Double.
And so it just dawned on me. I said, look, you're already making a 15-year mortgage payment. You're just doing it voluntarily. Mm-hmm. What if we did a cash out refi, get rid of all this debt that you have, and put you on a 15-year loan? And his actual cash outlay was less by doing that than what he was already paying on his current loan and having all debt. So we lowered his monthly expenses, put him on a 15-year loan, and now we funded his college education because that 15-year loan is going to build equity a lot faster.
Oh, wow. So
when the kids get ready to go to college, that he'll have a nest egg already there, already made. Mm-hmm. So that was one that we went down a path one way, mm-hmm. and it ended up taking a whole life of its own, and mm-hmm. we problem solved. He didn't realize he had a problem, and it was just going to be 7 years down the road. So
and that's what a lot of people, they don't realize, because they're not looking into the future. Like the retirement or their college fund or stuff like that. Right.
Yeah. They don't think that that far down the line, but that was just one thing that stands out to me, because it was a really cool thing to see, mm-hmm. to figure out for him. And mm-hmm. he was super happy. Like, he's, to this day, he calls me and thanks me all the time. Thanks, I appreciate it. So, but those are kind of some of the things that I look for, and when we're doing loan scenarios, even on the purchase side. Mm-hmm. What's it going to do with your retirement plans, your goals? Mm-hmm. Depends on where you're at in your life. Mm-hmm. But yeah, look at all that stuff too. That's what about you?
Me?
Yeah.
I have a lot of stories. One of them that sticks out, there's plenty, but one of them that sticks out is during COVID, and everybody was overbidding, overpricing their offers. And I had a family, and they had 3 little girls. And we've been putting offers, and they weren't getting accepted, right? And so you can start seeing that people start getting discouraged. And I have a habit of telling them, like, hey, the last thing you can do is lose hope. Like, we can't lose hope, right. And I'm like the motivator, the cheerleader. So my job requires a lot of hats, like you have to be a counselor, a cheerleader,
no pun intended.
Everything. Yeah. So, I told him, I'm like, if it's meant to be, it will be. And we put in an offer on a property in San Miguel. We went over asking, I believe like 20 grand or something like that. And they had, I kid you not, there was probably about 22 offers in that same house.
Wow.
And they were all over asking. And even over what we had offered and guaranteeing the difference and everything. But my job is to keep my clients motivated and like, hey, don't worry, let's finger crossing.
Yeah.
My text messages are usually emojis or like just whatever, depending on my clients,
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remembered, but around that time there was a new part on the contract that you couldn't do a letter, like
Right.
a
Motivation
a
letter.
motivational letter because maybe they can get sued because you didn't
Right.
give them the house because their ethnicity, their religion, or whatever the scenario
Right.
was, right? Because it was a single mother, whatever. So they put that line. So we ended up, that was the first time, which is weird. It was the first time that I've never written a letter because I usually always write a letter like, hey, my clients really love your house, blah, blah, blah. And then I have the clients write a letter if it comes down to it. But for the most part, I write the letter. And we didn't do it. Well, they countered us. And they countered us specifically saying that they wanted us to write a letter.
Oh.
And we're like, that's a first. I was like, that's a first. Okay, whatever. So I told my clients, I'm like, write a letter. So, and she wrote the letter, put a picture, but they had pictures of like the 3 daughters and the mom and the 3 daughters and the dad. No one family picture. Yeah. And they ended up accepting our offer because they had lived in that house as soon as they built it brand new. Yeah. And they had 3 daughters and they wanted to basically leave that same legacy in the house where they were going to help another family with 3 kids and stuff like that. And they even recounted us back after we wrote the letter. They accepted our offer, but they lowered the price an extra $10,000.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what? So it was just like amazing because
it was a good letter.
Oh yeah. And to me, I was just like, wow, like that there are nice people out there and it's not always about the price, it's and not all the time I suggest a letter because sometimes as an investor and they don't care, it's more money, like it just all depends on the scenario. But that was one scenario. Another one, just recently, it was a client from Arroyo Grande and they've been wanting to buy acreage, but Arroyo Grande's super expensive. Yeah. And so we were looking at Arroyo Grande, Nepoma, we couldn't find anything. And they qualified for almost $1 million. Like, so it's a nice approval, right? So you would think we can find anything, but it wasn't what they needed, and I knew that the wife needed a chicken coop and the dad needed the flat space. And every time we were looking at properties, it was either on a mountain or up a hill. The acreage was there. It wasn't
quite working for them.
Yeah, it wasn't working for them. The acreage was there, but it wasn't flat. It was like literally like like the one in Atascadero was like you just walk out. The house is literally right on the mountain and everything is like downhill. It's like nothing. You can't even park a trailer or anything. Anyways, the daughter ends up moving to Creston, in the North County. And they never really wanted to move up here, but it just kind of like everything happens for a reason. And then so they ended up driving over here, visiting the daughter. Next thing you know, they decide to move over here. And we look at a property. We look at properties and properties they keep sending me, but they're not really too familiar with Paso. Yeah. So I kept sending them the ones that I thought will work for them based on their needs and what I've been hearing. Yeah. But they thought it was too far, or I don't know honestly what they were thinking. So they were just sending me things that were like really impossible. So one day I just kind of like stood him up and I said, "Sir," and I went like this. I'm like, "We got to go see these 3 properties and I'm just going to schedule them and I'm going to, because I know what you guys want. It's obviously you guys are all over the place and you guys really don't know." And we went to go look at a house. They really loved it off of Jardine. And it was everything that they needed. It only had 1 acre. And I had scheduled another property the same day. But the agent calls me and says, "Hey, we just accepted an offer. So we're not going to, we went to escrow." And I said, "Well, we're already in town. Is there any way that we can go look at it? Because you never know. It might fall out of escrow." And I'm a really believer about that because it's happened to me in the past. And so as soon as we drove into the property, she said, "Yeah, go ahead. It's vacant. Go check it out." So we went. My client was so mad. He's like, "Oh my God, this is everything I've always wanted." And I'm so mad at myself. And I was like, I sent it to you several times, but they just kept, because sometimes, like I tell my clients, pictures can be very deceiving.
Right.
And that's why it's very important
you
to
gotta
go
get the
look.
feel.
Yeah, you got to go to the property, because if
feel its energy.
If it's a good photographer, it's going to make that place immaculate, and the rooms are going to look huge, and then you get there and they're all super small.
Right.
Or vice versa. If it's not a good photographer, the rooms might look like they're super small, or the yard, or there's no pictures of the yard. So you have to go look at the houses.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I took them. I waited for them because they were like telling me that they didn't want to go. Okay. This is before, like, once the lady said that they accepted an offer, he was giving me all the excuses not to go. Like, well, we're hungry. And I said, well, I'll wait for you guys. And I waited outside that Jack in the Box on 46. I waited for them to be done eating. They ended up buying me tacos. Thank you. And then because they were like putting objections, And so I used to sell cars, so I know how to handle objections. And I was like, no, that's not the real reason. He's just discouraged, but let's go look at it. We went. He was all pissed off, kicking, and he's like, this is everything I wanted, and now we're not going to get it. I said, if it's meant to be, it will be. Right. That was Friday night. By Sunday night, the agent calls me and says, hey, the house is, they ended up backing out of escrow. The wife went to go look at it, and it was too far out from Paso. Do your clients want it? I'm like, yes. I hadn't even called them. I just told them, yes.
Yes, we're doing it.
We're doing it. So I called them and I said, hey, I got good news and bad news. And they're like, what's the bad news? And I said, well, the bad news is that you're not going to be living in AG anymore, because they just called me that the house is available for you guys. He's like, what? No way. And they
got it.
And they ended up getting it. So
nice.
If it's meant to be, it will be.
Right.
So
absolutely,
those stories to me, they're just amazing. And he had seen the house. They've all seen the house on the pictures, but they just kind of kept brushing it off. But I took the initiative, and I'm like, no, let's go look at it.
So it's so important to go see the house.
And then be backup offer. Like, it doesn't matter if it's already pending. Let's go check it out and see if we can be backup offer number one, because you just never know. It might fall out of escrow. Right. And it did. And now they're happy. And I just went to their birthday party last couple of weeks ago.
And that stuff happens a lot.
It does.
It really does if you stick with it. But
it's because a lot of the times people see the house pending or active under contract, but there's still contingencies, just like you're able to back out of a deal after an inspection, or if the loan doesn't go through, or the appraisal wasn't met, or you didn't make the deposit on time. Obviously there's protocols that you have to do, like notice to perform and make sure that you can still perform. And if you can, then they'll send the cancellation. But a deal's not a deal until it's done. I always say that. I'm like, until I give you the keys in hand, that's your house.
That's when
But if anything can go wrong, will go wrong. So it's just, we have to be optimistic and do everything that we can in our power.
Do you find that a lot of people really don't understand the process of buying a home?
Yes. I really believe that a lot of people don't really understand the whole process. They don't know what contingencies are. A lot of the times people don't know what escrow is, because they say, oh, it's escrow can be a lot of things, the escrow company. Escrow is the process, the beginning to the end. I open escrow, I close escrow. I think the words, like what he was saying, what is a HELOC? We know a DTI, LTVs, all this stuff. And even some agents don't even know what that means. Like, oh yeah, the LTV can, blah, 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 CLTV. And they're what? Because they don't have that knowledge of the lending side or the side of the real estate side, so that's why we're supposed to be a team, and be able to help our clients have a better understanding of what it is.
Right.
So I don't think a lot of people know, or they just hear or see things on social media and they think, is it true that this and this and that? And most of it is true, but it just depends on the circumstances. It depends on the client. It depends on the credit. It depends on the loan to value. It depends on the DTI, which is the debt to income ratio. That's one of the most, I think, to me, the most important thing is your debt to income ratio. And a lot of the times people say, No, it's the credit score. No, because you can buy a house with a 580.
Yeah.
It's more.
You might pay more for it, but you
Yeah,
can get it.
exactly. But you can get it. So
Yeah.
the opportunities are there, but it's more, understanding. I would say having a better understanding of what you're getting into,
Yeah.
and that's why people I think are kind of hesitant of that commitment.
And most of the questions that I get about the process really stem from a lot of credit questions.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's the first place they go.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, it's talking about their debt to income ratios,
Mm-hmm.
but how to get their FICO scores up. And I can tell you a lot of times it's just because they have maxed out credit cards. And that's it.
That's usually the number one. That's why I
Right.
tell them, make sure you guys talk to a lender or, wait, are your cards maxed out? Because that's the number one. If you have a 500 credit card and you're maxed out on the 500, then your credit score is going to go down, and it's going to stay down until you pay it down.
Yeah, pay it down below 30% of the credit limit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen scores go up as much as 50 points just by doing that, just by paying it down.
Mm-hmm.
Not paying it off. We don't necessarily want to pay them off, because I think sometimes a lot of people think if they pay them off and close them, their score will go up. And actually, that's not the case. In fact, you don't ever want to close.
Yeah, I know. I always tell them,
Never
especially
close
the
good.
oldest
Right.
credit card that you have, do not close it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to
Don't
use
close
it, that's fine. Use it for gas here and there,
Yeah.
but
And believe it or not, if by paying off the card entirely doesn't get you as many points as if you just paid it down. Below 30%. Usually, anywhere between 10 and 20%, you're probably going to get the most bang for the buck. But I spend a lot of time explaining that to people. And that's usually their first question when they call, well, I'm not sure about my credit score. But it's so important to know that stuff. And when we're counseling people that are in the process of starting it, what I like to tell them to do is go out to annualcreditreport.com, pull a free credit report, because you get one free one a year. Look and see if there's anything on there that you need to address before you start your house hunting process. Because a lot of times you can just fix some things really quick to make your score go up. Because by the time we hit it with a hard inquiry, that's the tri-merge score that we're going to use. So if there's some credit issues already that you have, attack those before you start the process. And you get one free credit report a year, annualcreditreport.com.
yeah, because a lot of the times, and when people reach out to me as well, that's one of the first things that they say. My credit score is kind of low, or I don't have any money to put down. Can I buy without it, or those questions. But the credit report, like you said, not only is it paying it down, because a lot of the times people get bad advice. They tell them, go pay off your car. And like you said right now, you don't have to go pay off your car. And I know, because I used to do loans before. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the things. So that's kind of like, I kind of pre-qualify my clients by listening to their personal, how do you say it?
Their financial
their
situation.
financial situation, just based on what they tell me, and then I can refer them accordingly, depending, because there's a lot of people that have DACA and ITINs and stuff like that. So I always want to make sure that I don't refer them to somebody that doesn't have that program, because if you don't have that program, I don't want them to get discouraged and be like, oh, why should I even try? I'm not even going to qualify. Right. So that's kind of what I do, because I don't want that plant that seed on them. I know that the opportunity is there. Let's just find out who can do it, and for who can do it for less money down, because those programs require more money down. But
people can find it. It's not too overly difficult once you really start asking the right questions about coming up with a down payment. Obviously, if you have a down payment, you're going to get a better product, program, rate, fees, and all that stuff. A lot of the zero down programs that are available are good if you don't have access to any other funds, because that's the best program for you. But a lot of times people don't understand you can borrow from your 401k. That's a good way to get a small down payment, especially if you're doing an FHA loan. When you borrow from your 401k, you're paying yourself back. Yeah. You're paying a little bit of a fee to the company that you're borrowing the money from.
Well, it depends if you're getting a loan or if you're going to withdraw for an emergency, or like buying a house, an eviction, a death in the family.
If the 401k has those provisions in them, Usually you can borrow up to about 50% of the value of your 401k for a down payment. So you just need to check with the
With your
401k
401k.
provider to see what they allow. And gifts. We get, have you asked mom and dad, grandma and
Yeah.
grandpa? Because
Yeah.
it's funny, is a lot of grandparents now
Have money.
well, they're willing to gift you a down payment
Yeah.
because they were going to give you an inheritance anyway. So
Yeah.
it's just they're just giving it to you in advance. I've had a lot of conversations like that
Really?
with grandpa, and the kids didn't even realize, they didn't even
wow.
think that was a possibility. So I always tell them, ask. You never know.
Ask and you should
You
receive.
never know. You might just have a rich uncle somewhere or a
Yeah.
grandma and grandpa that might want to do it for you. But especially with sales prices being where they're at on the Central Coast, so it's always best.
Oh, that's
It's always-
actually, thank you for saying that. I didn't even think about that one.
yeah.
But
Just gotta ask.
getting the right advice, because like I said, people have the money, like say they have savings
Mhm.
of 20 grand, and then they end up paying down their car payment or their car loan when they didn't even have to, like
Right.
fully. They could have just done a few years off or something, like you said,
Right.
20% or whatever.
Yeah, cash is king.
So obviously,
If you got it, you can use it.
but
Yeah, I mean, and if you have larger down payments to work with, and obviously you've got a lot more options. So especially with a lot of the investor loans and things that are available nowadays. Did a quote today just on a DSCR loan. You didn't done any of those yet?
I haven't done one yet, but I mentioned it to somebody the other
Yeah,
day.
debt service coverage ratio loan. So there's no income qualifying,
Yes.
but if you've got a large down payment, typically 20% or more, whatever the rents are for that particular property, or if it's already been rented and it has a rental history, you can use those rents for qualifying income, not your personal income.
Yeah,
So, which is really good for self-employed people because a lot of
Yeah.
times they don't show income.
exactly.
And so if the house hasn't been rented out before, then we can ask the appraiser to do a rent schedule on it to see what the comparable rents are for the neighborhood. And as long as that ratio is like 1-to-1, meaning like your new mortgage payment is the same as what the rent pulls in, then you
Then you're
qualify.
good. Yeah, you're good to
you're
go.
good to go.
And that's for investors.
Investors,
So, yeah,
not
just so
not
you know.
for not for owner occupied.
It's a good program,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, but we have bank
investors.
statement loans for owner-occupied people. So if you
Yeah.
don't show income, but maybe you have a business that has a lot of cash flow, and good deposits into your bank account, we can take an average of your
income.
of your income off of what you deposit into your bank, less some expenses because we know there's operating expenses when you have a business. But that's another good way for self-employed people because a lot of self-employed people think, I'm never going to buy a house because I don't
because
show any
of-
income.
Yeah,
Okay, there's other options.
yeah.
You just got to ask.
Ask and you should
Ask.
receive. Okay, well,
Good deal.
yeah.
We rattled
So-
off another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
24. All right.
But
Awesome.
asking you should receive.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. This was so awesome. I've got so many ideas now.
We can go on and on and on and on and on. So if
Yeah.
there's a particular question you guys want to ask, please feel free to reach out to Mike or to
Yeah.
myself, and we will love the opportunity to help you guys out.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.